Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for joining me on the late one where we review the news of this week. My name is Silburn Sidiel, and let me just make sure that this is working. One, two, three. Make sure my mic is on. Fantastic. One, two, three, one, two, three. Okay, today is the first of the fourth. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, good. Fantastic. Okay, everything is happening. Today is the first of the fourth, and it is not Tom Fool Day, right? It is here. It is April the 1st, not Tom Fool Day. So, you know, an interesting day today. Today was a day when the racial report, which came out, and also we're seeing where Pfizer is kicking COVID's butt. Now, Dr. David can tell us more about that because we're seeing something happening here whereby everybody's now released, ready to go into the park and ready to have some fun. But without further ado, let me just bring in my guests. I can see Mr. Francis and also Dr. Burton. Hey guys, how are you doing?
All good. How are you?
Good. Good to see you again, Silver.
I'm good. I'm trying to get hold of Keima as well. I can see that she's trying to get in, but we wait until she get in. But I must say that it's a holiday period, and everybody's excited because guess what? They're saying get out. Not the movie Get Out, but everybody can get out now and go into the park and have a good time. I was walking in the park the other day, went in the evening, and there's so many people, and I said, Anthony, I said, man, I'm going back home, man. I don't like to walk with people. I'm used to the private moments, the quiet moments in the morning. But one of the things, though, it was great seeing a lot of people out there. What do you guys take of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the sunshine, the fact that the vaccine has done so well, and people obviously have been locked up for so long now that, it's just almost like a release to try and go back. And they've obviously given the guidelines that you can have up to, I think, 6 people outdoors now. So I think people are really taking advantage of that in order to meet up and to get a bit of fresh air and just to try and get a little bit of normality. I think the only thing I would say on top of that is, make sure that you do still follow the guidelines, because it doesn't mean that the virus isn't out there, and we still have to adopt a sort of cautious approach first. And something else I would just say before you go on to David is that when you do go out there and you enjoy the sunshine, please also take your rubbish. I think the images that we've seen in the parks is that people seem to go there and seem to feel that they can just leave their litter around willy-nilly for somebody else to pick up. So my advice to those people out there is please take your litter back with you and stop being so disgraceful in terms of leaving your rubbish for other people to pick up.
Wow. What can I say? And you said there were 6 people out there. I saw 1,000, man. You said 6. I saw 1,000. David.
Well, I didn't see any because I've been working hard, so I don't get outside. But I do hear through the grapevine as to what's being, what sort of things are transpiring. So it's a needing pursuit to get some shopping done. Checkout assistants telling me that places are full and people are mixing and socializing, which I think. As Anthony said, you've got to be sensible about things. You've got to be looking after the environment as well. You can't just be leaving things around for other people to collect and pick up. But at the same time, there is a transition. There is a roadmap to recovery. And I think, with each passing week, we're finding that we're able to do more and more. So this is all good news. As you know, I'm Mr. Positivity, so I'm real happy that we're going in this direction. And that we'll soon be able to sort of welcome people around the home in fashions that we did previously. But remember, even though the numbers are up in regards to vaccinations, not everybody's had the fortune of having the vaccination as yet. The target is for July for adults to have had their first vaccination, and hopefully that will be the case. I can't see any reason why that would not transpire, even despite the issues around AstraZeneca around a week ago. We all know there's going to be this tug of war of vaccines across the world. Everybody wants the vaccine because they see it as a way out. And I'm glad that we got our caseloads in before it became more of an issue. So it's great. I think this is good. It's all good all around. Great, but let's be sensible. I think that's the key. We don't want to be going on 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th waves because of silliness, really. But at the same time, be safe, be smart, and when your time is called for the vaccine, you've got to make that choice yourself. But encourage that the vaccine's safe. It's there. It's effective. It's working. As Silborn started at the top of the show, it's working.
So COVID, Pfizer kicking COVID. That's what they said. But before I go any further, Keima, hey, how are you doing? We're trying to get you in. I couldn't start without the lady, and I mean, can't afford that. Get criticized each time. Keima? Oh wow, no sound.
She's on
okay,
mute.
she's coming. No sound. All right. Okay, Keima, while you sort out your sound, we'll go back to David just to start, because let's David always give us this sound. One second. Keima, can you hear us? Okay, check your microphone and stuff like that, and we are here for you. David, let's start off with what I said earlier, whereby I said Pfizer somehow kicking COVID. Its vaccine is preventing 91% of coronavirus cases in 6 months after people are immunized.
Yeah.
Immunized. So I said immunized.
Yeah.
So I said Pfizer kicking COVID. That's what I wanted to say, kicking COVID. Something else, but Yeah.
Well, undoubtedly, the facts don't lie. This is a new study that's published recently. 6 months of data. It's working. It's effective. And remember, I keep saying to challenge any particular myths or unproven facts. The two things that need to be recognized here are vaccinations safe and are they effective? And this Pfizer vaccine most definitely is. AstraZeneca is. We've got Moderna vaccine coming up shortly. These vaccines are helping and assisting our way out of this particular pandemic. And for the data to come out is supportive of its use. It means that it installs a degree of public strength in regards to the fact-finding mission of what works out there, because people are still going to have their apprehensions. People are still going to be worried about vaccinations, especially with the longevity or the short-term development of the particular products itself. But this data cannot help but give people that knowledge base that will help them make the informed decisions that's required when it comes to taking a vaccination. Vaccination hubs are full. I'm getting stories of people trying to get vaccines earlier within the hospital and being told you can't get them just at the moment. You've already signed up for your second vaccination. You just have to wait. So people do want to get the vaccination. I've got examples of patients who are wanting to come into the hospital because they realize the vaccinations are a root cause of out of this pandemic, and it alleviates that fear of coming into a hospital and picking up an infection. So it's all manners a degree of positivity out there in regards to the vaccination and the uptake. And I think it's excellent news that Pfizer have published this data for us all to see. Clarity is there. The vaccines work, even against the new waves that are out there. And I don't think I've mentioned this very much before, but vaccines do change. Okay, you're going to get different strains that occur. I don't want that to worry people, to make people more alert. I just think they have to recognize that as a matter of fact. That's what viruses do. They change from time to time. So this is not anything that's unknown. This kind of trajectory is always going to take this place. But the fact that the vaccine is so effective is fantastic, and it shows how our bodies are able to cope under stress with regards to vaccine, this virus. Sorry, because at the start of this, the insurmountable problems it was causing in the NHS have been helped and eased through our ability to socially distance, etc. But also the vaccines that are currently available to us have been tremendous in trying to reduce that burden. It's fantastic.
Okay, Keima? No? Okay. No sound? Okay.
Keima needs a vaccination. That's what it is. You see, this is what happens when you don't have the vaccine. You don't have the vaccine, you can't talk. You're quiet.
She need a jab of a voice. Anthony, how do you see things spawning out now? You see, the light at the end of a tunnel, which is not an oncoming train, but actually fundamental results?
Well, yeah, I'm just as optimistic as David, and really, I do feel that we are on the right track. As David has also pointed out, there will be other variants of the virus we have to be aware of. And I suppose the other thing also to take into consideration is we still don't have our borders closed, so there will be people who will travel in to the UK who perhaps have the virus and don't know it, and that's the reason why we have to maintain our discipline in terms of following the guidelines and in making sure that we stick to the social distancing measures that have been put in place. We wash our hands, we keep our distance, and where appropriate, we wear masks. So I think if we do that and we comply properly, then I think all of us can actually end up getting out of this, not just in the UK, but other countries as well. But we have to be disciplined, and we can't let a few days of sunshine and, you know, the data showing good news suddenly make people think that actually, you know, the virus has now gone away and we can suddenly go back to normal. You know, we can't go back to normal right now. We have to maintain discipline in order to see it through. We're halfway through now. We've run the first 200 of a 400-meter race. Let's now, you know, do the extra 200 meters and make sure that we get to the finish line and complete it.
Yes. David, I heard that there were many medical practices were having problems whereby people weren't turning up for their second dose.
Yeah, I think that was reported in the news, but I think you've got to look at some of the reasons and rationale for that.
Yes.
Some people may well have actually been able to get vaccines through other sources. So what do I mean by that? You've signed up to get your vaccine through a particular hub, and then your GP calls you and says, actually, if you come in the next 24 hours, we'll be able to get the vaccine for you. So what are you going to do? Are you going to wait the extra days, or are you going to listen to your GP and go in to get it if you're able to? That's one of the reasons that has been postulated as to why people are not turning up. But it's about, I think when you hear news stories like, you think, oh gosh, that means people aren't taking the vaccine. But I don't think that's the case, because if you look at the numbers of people who have historically taken the vaccine in the UK, it's astronomical numbers. I'm not here to be a spokesperson for the government, but I just do think it's a really good effort to try and get the numbers that we have in this country. So I think we've got to look at what it is that the press is basically saying, and then pick apart some of the reasons that may well be taking place. I'm not saying that some people may not be taking the vaccine, but what I am saying is there are definite reasons as to why the numbers in certain centres may well be lower. And actually, if you look at it, it may well be higher in other places because GPs are able to get extra payments for providing the vaccination, which is, I'm not arguing against the payments. I'm just saying that's just another way. If you call up somebody and say, okay, I can get this vaccine within 24 hours, I think you'll be inclined, especially if you want to take the vaccine, to go turn you back on a vaccination center and get it done within the next 24 hours.
Yes. Keima, can you talk? Okay, so we're working with Keima with the silent voice there. So
I really need somebody who can do sign language. That's what we need.
Can I just interject on what David has just said before we move on to the next topic?
Yes.
And that is that sadly the newspapers sometimes create headlines which really aren't helpful. You know, so if they suddenly say that the Pfizer vaccine or the AstraZeneca vaccine, there's been, you know, a few blood clots, and they have a great big front page that has that, then all of a sudden they create the uncertainty and the fear that stops people from coming forward. And then, you know, the numbers, as David has just pointed out, speak for themselves. 30 million people have had the vaccine, which means half of the population have had this thing. So I don't see any, for me, I see no point in the media putting out stories that really are counterproductive. Yes, they sell news, but quite frankly, all it does, we've already got groups of people or communities that are already fearful of the vaccine. Yes. And then to put out stories that talk about clots or, you know, one or two areas here or there that are concerns is disproportionately incorrect, because the figures themselves just don't add up. So it creates a sort of a negative narrative, when in fact what is out there is a positive narrative and a great story that we should be saying. And that's the reason why I find it unhelpful for newspapers to broadcast headlines in the way that they do.
So therefore, what you're actually saying then, and ladies and gentlemen, it's good to hear what your views are, those on Instagram and those on Facebook. Thank you for coming on, Keisha, as well, is that you don't want to hear any sort of dissenting, questionable voice around the vaccine, or you're trying to say it must be balanced.
I think for me, it's got to be balanced, and I think again, it sounds like we're saying things in synchrony, but I have to agree with Anthony there. The things that we pay attention to should be more focused. So, for example, if we're stood here, you know, 3-4 months down the line, and only 250,000 people in the UK are taking this vaccine, then that's a big point. That's a big story. That's what I want to hear from the press. I want to hear why that is, etc., etc. But 30 million people have taken this vaccine, and yet you're going to concentrate on a news story that has reported 200 people, 300 people who have not turned up for a vaccination. And actually, you've not told me why it is that they're not turning up for the vaccination and whether or not they've actually taken the vaccine somewhere else. That's the key issues that we have here, because I don't even think the story is a starter in a sense, because again, the time that's afforded to that is taking away. And let's get it real. Okay, people generally don't have the time to read through news stories. They'll see a headline, and the headline is what it is, and that's what they're going to pick and say, oh, actually, people aren't taking a vaccine. Not looking at the 30 million, because there's no question about the 30 million. We're not talking about that. What the headline definitely helps to drive an agenda. And I think by picking it apart like we're doing this evening is fantastic. But I do think that lending credence to this particular discussion, we can move forward and give more balance to it.
Yeah, I must say that over the months and the year since we have been talking about it, we have been actually dissecting the whole process day by each week by week, and giving a sort of roving commentary, David, with your help as well. And I must say the atmosphere out there, especially with my walk in the morning, I can see a difference. I can sense a difference in the air, and it's not just because of the summer, but I believe that there's a breaking through, and I would say it has contributed to a level of confidence in the system.
I think so. 30 million people speaks for itself. That gives you confidence. I think that gives you big confidence that people are moving in the same direction. They realize that there's a means to an end, and that end is in sight. I like the analogy. 200 meters to go. That's what we've got. And we've got Bolt in the lead. We just don't want to let him pull up a cramp or anything like that. He's going at pace. Let's keep going.
Well, that's a good point to move over into another topic, which we're talking about, this recent report which came out recently, and I'm trying to find if I can. There it is, the Controversial Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities. As we're moving away from COVID, as we're moving away from Brexit, we got this issue which we have to deal with, because this started, and this report was commissioned on the backdrop of George Floyd, which is funnily, it's happening again in America now with this case. And I want to bring in Anthony here because we have seen since the report came out, which is today, yes? Is it today? Yes. Today. So many discussions about it, so many negative criticism of the author. But Anthony, let's go straight up, because I like to get away from the noise and get into the meat. And the truth. Anthony is the truth, yes.
Yeah, and so do I. I like to get away from the noise. And I think really, for me, the noise is that we've got another report, when really what we should be doing is actually implementing the recommendations from previous reports.
Yes.
Because what this does, in my opinion, is that it actually creates a sort of narrative around, well, we've had a report, these are the recommendations, and we're going to take 6 months to sort of work our way through, and we're going to look at them. Well, actually, why don't we simply look at the Lamy report, the Parker report, look at what was recommended and implement them. Look at them as a whole and implement them. We don't need more reports. We seem to be spending our time producing more and more reports that go into the long grass, rather than actually implementing action plans. So we do lots of talking,
yes,
but there's no action. So for me, the real takeaway I've got from this is, yes, it's created some headlines again. We just talked about headlines, and some of it has been negative around the personnel,
yes,
and around maybe the phrase that we all know is a label around BAME. But
yes,
what I don't see is anything of the previous report where there's been any implementation to actually tell us what has been the results of those implementations, what has changed. And all we seem to be doing is having more and more reports. Bearing in mind, the Parker report and the Lamy report were both commissioned in 2017. So that was only 4 years ago, right? And what have we got? We got another report again. So we had two reports in 1 year, and we've now got another report, all talking about the same issues around around diversity and inclusion. And we know there are issues in this space, but let's actually implement some of the recommendations and not just having more and more reports.
Right. So and just as though they're all both talking about a report for COVID as well. David.
I don't even know where to start. I think the whole issue with reporting, I completely agree. I think that we don't need any more reports. Completely agree. I think that we can look at the personnel. I think the problem for me is if you're going to have another report, then you've got to look at the personnel that are involved within the report itself. And if they've already got preconceived notions that are public about the topic at hand, then I don't think that's very helpful as a starting point, especially if those viewpoints are very recent. People can change their minds. We develop as humans over time. The things that I thought as an 18-year-old are not the same things that I think as a 38-year-old. So the fact is, we all can change our minds. But if things are in recent nature, then people are really going to point fingers at the things that you are doing. It's specifically on the topic of race, if those things that you said are in the public ether. And I think that's the thing that I would take away from all of this. There are things that have been said that have been inflammatory to communities, subsections of communities. I'm not going to say all sections, but subsections of communities. And so for those people are already going to feel on the edge when it comes to looking into the findings of the report. But I think, yeah, you're right that in regards to moving forward, we've really got to be able to put things into practice, and the talking really has to stop. I think one of the funny things that I heard was that the commission finding of not wanting to highlight racism as an issue has made people feel that they have to talk about racism even more, and that's a really ironic finding that we find ourselves talking about race even more. So with regards to action points, we've really got to look at the historical reports that have been put out there that have already been postulated, and think about how we deliver that to the communities at large. And maybe there needs to be less of a self-reliance on top-down and more community-up-driven action via communities working in an effort to try and drive some of these changes. That sounds like a pipe dream. I know it does, but at the end of the day, you're going to get community changes that are driven by community members from bottom up. And I think we've got to really put our power into practice by electing people to represent us. And that's simply put, if you do not vote, I think that's one of the biggest things for me. And this is just a small thing, but one of the biggest things for me is voting and being able to elect people into positions of power that would affect you particularly. That's just a small subsection, but I think it's one thing that communities can do to try and enforce change. But yeah, this commission report, I think, is really being gaslighting this idea that by not talking or by not saying that racism is an issue, it then becomes an issue.
Okay, let's okay, let me just check something with Keima. Keima, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but I don't know if you can still hear me.
We can hear you. If you can hear us, you can hear us. You can hear. Can you hear us, Keima?
I can hear you, yes.
And you can see us. Okay, fantastic. Before we get back onto Keima, I should catch up. The author of this commission report is this gentleman, which is called Tony Sewell. His picture is there, Tony Sewell. And this word gaslighting is being bantered around for a bit, right? The word gaslighting, and also the fact that he's a wrong person. Let's call a spade a spade. I know, Anthony, you said that they need to go back and find those other reports. And I know, David, you echoed that. But there's this report before us now. And many people are actually focusing on this report. And they're looking at, they are criticizing this report. I don't know if you guys have looked into it. Somebody's playing something in the background. Yeah. If you can actually check from this report, what is any positive that you have seen out of it, Anthony?
Well, I suppose the two things that stand out as, I'm not sure if it's positive, but it certainly created a discussion point, and that's around the label of Black and ethnic minority, the BAME label, which they feel is unhelpful, and also the recommendation that there is more discussion in the education system, in the curriculum, around diversity and inclusion in terms of the things that they talk about.
Yes.
So certainly they're the two that I think a lot of the people will focus on, because they're the ones that, I suppose, again, if we use the headlines, people will sort of be able to easily relate to. Education in schools, yes, we know that's important.
Yes.
But to make sure that our young children understand race and diversity and inclusion really early. Excuse me. But also, I suppose this label that some people do say is quite a lazy label to sort of link or to bring all of the different ethnic minority members together under one umbrella, using the term BAME, which a number of communities and individuals do find unhelpful. So I suppose to bring that discussion forward is useful, but really, I don't think a commission that's taken 1 year to produce a report and has highlighted a couple of sort of areas that I think a lot of people might say is already known, and certainly the other headline around there not being any institutional racism is quite unhelpful and also incorrect. And I think that type of reporting, as David mentioned, really what it seems to have done is actually created more of a discussion around race because of those sorts of comments that are in the report.
It is interesting what you said there, because I was reading it here and it says, stop using aggregated and unhelpful terms such as BAME to better focus on understanding disparities and outcomes for specific ethnic groups. You know, that is one of the things. For years, people, I find the BAME thing, because what they're saying, everybody's actually put together in one big box. And I've been listening to some of the comments today, and I'm seeing everybody's going at Mr. Tony Sewell. And then something in the back of my mind and said, hang on a second, we've got to be careful again, whereby we are now being pit against each other to the display of the world. You know, when actually we should be seeing, of the 24 recommendations, which I have not gone through all of them, what is it can we pick out? I understand a bit about institutional racism, which you can pick up on later, is saying that is not around anymore in the UK, but he did say, I'm not saying we're in this post-racial era. He did say that.
Yeah, he did. And I think there are other positives. I mean, it's not to say that this is a completely falsified document. I'm not going to say that, because opinions matter. You need to get the census of what people feel in regards to this report, and there are positives. There's a positive that the average GCSE attainment score for Black Africans, Indians, Bangladeshi, it now surpasses that of white British students. So that's fantastic news in the sense of upliftment and attainment. But you want everybody needs to be uplifted, but it's exceptionally great in that the attainment scores are higher. But then on the flip side of it, if you look at the number of kids who would then from those backgrounds be employed, there's a lower distribution. So in terms of their counterparts who would have scored less in their GCSEs, white counterparts. So there's still this discrepancy between the report's findings and what they could have commented on. And I think that's the thing here. The things that they could have commented on are not included and not reported in a manner that makes perfect sense for us all to see. So I think that's the critique I would say. You've got to have that balance. We just talked about balance earlier with regards to fact finding in COVID, and talking about people who essentially have not turned up at particular centres for their vaccination. Let's have that balance in this report as well. The reports are meant to be balanced, not swayed by political persuasion or otherwise. And I think that, and I'm not sitting here saying that that's what happened with this government report, but I do think there's got to be influences at hand in regards to how this report's findings have been published. So there are good points, don't get me wrong. There are great points that need to be accounted for. The notion that things need to be on the shoulders of government, I think, is a notion that we shouldn't look at. We should look at families. We should look at social communities. We should look at those certain factors in terms of social mobility. But there are historical things that haven't been accounted upon, and that's what makes people irked. Because if they're not included in this report, then people are going to be annoyed. And again, if you're not going to make the action points from previous reports, people are going to be annoyed. So that's my particular feeling on this particular racial inequality report. And the one thing I will say, I go back to a show that we had many moons ago. We talked about the use of BAME. I probably won't use the name BAME, and I haven't used it particularly in the same manner. But we talk about being Black and mentally effective. So I'm all about that. I'm really going to get my T-shirt of Black and mentally effective put out there at some point in time, and change the dynamics of the flavor of the word BAME. What will be interesting is what terminology is used going down the track, if there is going to be a change of terminology, or we are just going to refer to ourselves as ourselves. I don't know.
I'm going to go to Anthony about the terminology, but Keima, let me see if I can. Keima, yes? No? Yes.
She's been locked out, boy.
Okay, she's been talking to Rishi. So, Anthony, if you go on Anthony and tell us what would be the alternative to the term BAME, if anything, or should we just be ourselves? Yeah, go for that, Mr. Truth.
Well, listen, I mean, it's an interest. When I heard that was going to be phased out, or that was one of the recommendation key points, what it made me think of was the term African American in the States, because it's interesting that the term African American is always used when there is a black person on the TV. They always seem to preference it with African American. They don't say African Asian or African any other nationality. They always say African American. So, you know, I think that term is also redundant. I don't see any reason to make reference to the person's race when they are introduced. And similarly, over here, I don't see any reason why we should continue to refer to us as BAME or anything like that. I mean, you know, we are what we are. We are black of origin. We, you know, we are Caribbean of heritage, depending on where you come from. So, you know, you've got to just to say what you are. I mean, I don't think the term ethnic minority, black and ethnic minority, or whatever other variant that you want to use. I heard in one meeting I was in the other day, someone called it, I think it was a cultural difference. I think that was the phrase used. I mean, I've heard so many different terms. Quite frankly, the labels are a distraction. We don't need a label, as David just pointed out, to refer to ourselves. I'm Anthony. You know, so do I need to say that I'm black? Do I need to say that I'm BAME? I'm just Anthony, right? So why do I need a terminology? Why is it that there's no terminology for white people? You know, should white people who are not English or indigenous also have reference? So should it be that I'm white Polish? You know, so why do we bother with these labels? They're unhelpful and they are distraction.
You know, I say something a bit controversial. Well, I always say something controversial. And,
what? Tell you controversial? No.
Somebody said it's a sad day in the UK. It makes people hopeless. And I said, that's the problem. That's the problem. The day that you allow a report to make it hopeless and to make it a problem, that's where we have lost. I said, as a matter of fact, I said, I'm not even going to blame the government. I'm going to blame the black leadership in this country. We are the one who is at fault. If that a report is making us feel dejected, hopeless, because it doesn't say what we want to say. Keisha said right here, she said, it is not a balanced report. It is written in the government interest. Keisha said also, it says we are idealistic or experience of racism is the myth. Anthony, the question I put to you guys is this. If a report says that and we know otherwise, what do we do? Do we attack it, or do we live our lived experience and try to sort out our personal life and to be the best, be the Dr. David who goes through no matter what, whatever comes his way?
Look, Selborn, I mean, you know, as I mentioned before, I mean, sadly for me, I think we do too much talking and not enough action. You know, individuals have choices. If you want to better yourselves, you know, you have a choice to go and get a good education and try and network and do things that will try and get you into the right positions. I mean, look, David is black. Does it mean that David hasn't achieved his ambition to be a doctor? You know, I've also achieved senior status in the sort of corporate world. You know, we have to get past this sort of victimization of ourselves personally and worry and sort of put worries on reports. The reports are there from government to sort of which we can try and hold them accountable for things that they have or have not done. Personally, I think where there has been reports and they've identified areas that need to be changed, rather than have another report, because that's what it seems to me they're doing. They have a meeting to talk about a meeting. what they ought to do is take the meeting's output from the last meeting, which was the Parker, the Lammy, or whatever other report. Look at the implementations that were recommended and implement them. And the individuals themselves, they should leave government to actually get on with that. Yes, we need to hold them accountable. As David said, we vote these people in as our elected MPs and councillors. So we need to hold them accountable. And that's where we ought to be holding them accountable for. We should be saying, well, hang on, we don't need more reports. We need more action. And of course, we need our local, we need our own communities to work alongside each other to also try and help each other out as they can.
I'm sorry to burst your bubble. The recommendation 9 says, require publication of a diagnosis and action plan for organizations who choose to publish estimated pay figures, right? Recommendation 10 said, undertake strategic review of the cause of disparity pay increase. Are you not hearing more reports, Burton, coming out of this?
But we already know the information. We already know the stats, and I can see the trajectory of the conversation. So that's why I said, really, at the very start, we need to think of community grassroots, how we form bonds within the community, and moving the strategy forward from the bottom up. Because the top-down approach is not working. It's cyclical. Governments rotate. People change. They need to be speculative. They need to put out reports. And they don't stay for the term. People stay for the term. People stay for the generation. We're all here in the community, hopefully living through good health, and so we can live longevity. So we are here. We don't change every 5 years.
Yes.
And that's the issue. If we basically had a government that was there for a long period of time, that we could help. Well, sorry, if it was the other way around, and we could basically just put the power in our hands and get the work done, we can get these changes in effect, and we have to work together in the community to do that.
Let me just check something. Are your background there?
Yeah,
Keima,
there.
can you talk? Somebody's saying
Sorry?
something. You can talk. I think somebody has their
Could you hear
radio
me?
on. Right. Okay, Keima, sort out your radio. The background thing in your background there. Yes, Anthony, pick up back from what David says.
Well, yeah, excuse me. I think David has echoed, what we've just been trying to sort of articulate here. In that, and I think I'm just looking at some of the comments as well that people are putting down in the chat around. We have many educated fools in the world running the country, and I'm not going to name names, but I will. We've got Boris. So ultimately, I've got to put him out there. He's one of the biggest educated fools who we have running the country right now, sadly. And that's just my opinion. And obviously, everyone's got their own. But clearly, I think that touches on Michelle's point that at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're educated that you're making the right decisions. You do need to work amongst the team, but of course, as the Prime Minister, he has the final say. But I think, as David also points out, we need to help ourselves and communities out there. We've seen with this pandemic how communities have actually come together and helped themselves in terms of food deliveries, making sure that people are safe, providing support and help, well-being issues, training. You've seen people come together in choirs to do exercise and things like this. Suddenly, everybody now knows their neighbours. So they're the people who actually can make a difference to us. It's our communities. And I know some people might turn around and say, well, our communities don't give us jobs, they don't pay us. I understand that. But certainly by knowing your community, you increase your network of who you do know, who may be able to open doors for you elsewhere. And, of course, you have to also make sure that you also make your own luck as well. I mean, you can't just always, for want of a better word, blame others if you don't get what you would like to get. I mean, I'm sure I would like to have been, a professional footballer or an NFL player. That didn't happen, and I have to make the best of the tools that and my skill sets that I have. So I think yes, there are issues here and there, but community is important. I think we've recognised that now with the pandemic. We need to make sure we elect people who we support and we hold accountable. And we need to stop writing reports and take action.
Yes. Too many reports. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to jump on Instagram. We're going to wrap up now and then go over to Instagram where Keisha and Keima is going to join us. But before I go first, Keisha, can you hear us? Keima?
I can hear you, but I'm not quite sure you can hear me.
Oh, wow. Say something then, please. Speak. The ladies speak. What's your take on
Can you
the,
hear
on
me?
the
All right.
what's
Well,
your take on
obviously
the
this.
report?
Well, it's been a very topical one, and of course, there's a lot of people have a lot of different things to say. For me, I think Anthony and Dr. Burton has actually said quite a bit of what I was going to say, but for me, it's more of an observation. I mean, I was listening to one of the radio programs this week, and one of the
Well, Silburn TV
guys
needs to sort out Keisha.
rang up and he made
All right, Keima,
the comment
Keima,
that
Keima, we're gonna stop you right there. Yes, Silburn TV has a responsibility to make sure you get a proper mic and laptop and everything like that. Keima, you gonna
cherry pick the commission.
Yeah, you better pause that one.
Yeah, you have to pause that one.
Pause it.
Huh?
I think
Okay.
So they
Keima,
could have the
Keima.
all that he
She can't hear you. She can't hear you.
Okay, Keima.
and
Keima, can you stop? Stop.
And
Okay.
reflection of that, you're thinking to you.
Okay. Sorry, we lost Keima there for a second. Okay, so okay, guys. So therefore, you can hear. Can you hear us still?
No, I can't hear her.
No.
I think unfortunately Keima's connection is a bit like Deliveroo, the IBO this week. It's just not working. It's just
not working.
It's not working.
That's an excellent one, David. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. It's not working. It's not working.
When you're gone, you're gone.
You're gone. Exactly.
Okay, but anyway, guys, listen. It was a good discussion, and we're gonna take up on this one because I'm hearing some feedback from my side. It's like Deliveroo and everybody and viruses coming. We need some COVID break back.
Oh my goodness!
Listen, George Floyd, of course.
Okay.
George Floyd bit is going on at the same time, but we're going to wrap up now still. We're going to try to keep it between 9:45. And we get the lady next week, but we're going to pop over to Instagram for those who want to come on, and Keisha and Keima can speak more freely over there. And we let Anthony go so he can get his hot chocolate and watch the news. David, you have a long day today, you know, in the service of the country.
Correct.
And likewise myself as well. You know, we're hardworking people amidst the COVID. You know,
the work must go on.
Yes. Any last word, guys?
No, I mean, go on, Anthony. After you.
No, I was going to say, enjoy the weekend, be safe, and make sure you follow the guidelines.
Good. David?
Exactly. Enjoy your Easter bun, guy. Bun and cheese for everybody. If you want to come to a Jamaican store, I'm sure there'll be some Jamaican stores, African Caribbean stores, Asian stores. There'll have some bun and cheese. But make sure you have your bun and cheese and enjoy the weekend.
And for me, that's HTB or Yummy. I don't know which one people like, but that's for the Jamaican side. Anthony, I mean, we'll teach you about that another time.
Thanks, Silvan.
Don't worry, I supply Anthony with hardware breads from a bakery. I get a bake. You remember, David? Did I get?
Yeah, we got some hardware bread, and we also got some patties.
Oh yes, I made sure. You know what I mean? Yes. Awesome.
I must say that was not in the peak of the pandemic, so people, you know, it was a responsible trip down to London many months ago when the lockdown was not in full effect.
Yes, and we walked on Brixton and everything together. Exactly. Social distance, yes.
Exactly.
Right. Fantastic. Get that right. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and see you. Okay.
Take care. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining on today, and we have to move very quickly on. I'm going to ask Keima or Keisha if they can come over onto Instagram just briefly. Make sure you enjoy the holiday break. You got Good Friday, you got Easter Monday, get some bun and cheese and all those sort of things. Remember, on Saturday, we're going to have Talk and Sip. I think we're going to dissect this a bit because this particular topic, I'm going to have O'Neill from the States, was being dissecting the report, the racial disparity report as well. and we're gonna have that with talk and sip. What drink I'm gonna be having this Saturday evening, I don't know. What drink people are gonna have in, we don't know. But you don't have to have alcohol. You can have any sort of drink, as long as you have a drink. And that's on Silburn TV on Instagram, where we can have 4 persons at the same time, and we go through a rotation as well. So without further ado, have a good night. God bless you. Enjoy the weekend. And Michelle, what do you say? Which is the best? Which is the best bun? Is it yummy? Okay. Okay. Good stuff. See ya. Bye bye. Thank you.